Hi, I'm Skipper Parvo. Welcome to the Slop podcast. Each week, we'll interview trailblazing renegades challenging archaic archetypes and exploring alternative ideologies. In our ongoing dialogue about what it means to be an evolved human mammal, we'll color outside the lines of conventional science and medicine in pursuit of finding meaning in our present incarnation and unleashing our truest self. Today's guest is author of the best-selling book, It's Not My Fault, a journey of self-preservation in times of major life crises. Laura is here to give tips on how to overcome life's greatest obstacles by focusing less on what you didn't do right and more on what others could have done for you. Laura teaches valuable skills in self-fullness, also a self-proclaimed couch potato, and loves nothing more than watching sports games and eating candy. When she isn't hosting her popular support group for cancer scare survivors, what about me? We're gonna have a lot to talk about. Everybody welcome Laura Garten.
Thank you.
Before we dive in, I would like to put a pin in our 15-second meditation that we start every session with.
Absolutely.
Today's intention is full moon ancestral healing.
Thank you.
Okay, you can start now. That was cleansing.
I really needed that.
I feel like our ancestors were communicating and vibing.
Don't you think that they were best friends?
I feel like they knew each other, best friends.
They sure did.
Maybe one worked for the other, you know.
Let's not get started with that again. Seriously, it's so nice to meet you.
It is nice to meet you. I love that. Fresh slate. So I want to really dive into this cancer support group before we talk about your book, because that is how I found you. About a year ago, I Instagrammed a photo of a terrifying red bump on my arm. And the comments were vicious. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a mosquito bite. It's not skin cancer, you dumb bitch. I really thought for a solid week that I had cancer. Yeah. And then I come back and my doctor says, oh, it was probably Zika. You know, that's what you should have been more worried about.
Right.
And
whatever trend is, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you went abroad like Zika, you know, everybody rides the wave.
Not to the parts where we go though, you know.
I Googled, you know, fake red bumps that aren't cancer that you thought were cancer, and your name pops up. Cancer Scare Support Group.
That's right.
And I just felt like I found my community.
Sure. Absolutely.
You don't even get the sympathy.
And can I just start by saying that that is valid?
Thank you.
The fear that you have that it could have been you.
I had cancer. In my heart, I had cancer, and nobody cared. And then I didn't. And I'm robbed of the sympathy and the community built around disease.
And you know what else is true? You beat it. You know, you beat cancer.
Touché.
You know, what about me, the Cancer Scare support group that I host in my home in the Palisades? We have to have you again sometime soon.
I would love that. We're neighbors.
It's a safe space to say that your experience was valid. You know, we as primates, as mammals, you know, need a sense of community when we go through a trauma. right? But a lot of people don't identify a cancer scare as a trauma. They think, oh, only the good part of it, only the, woo, I didn't get cancer, yay. Like it's a huge celebration. But really, there's not a way to process that week or that month while you're waiting for the radiology appointment, which, by the way, is terrifying if you ever have to go through that. I don't wish that on anyone. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to get through that. And I just want to say that I see you. I see your courage, and I thank you for sharing with the world your journey. And your skin looks amazing, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so relieved it wasn't skin cancer. What about you? Can you talk about your experience that led you to create this support group?
Well, I actually found that I had a lump on my thyroid. So I went in and the doctor said, oh, that is a lump on your thyroid. We're going to need to do a fine needle aspiration of your thyroid to make sure that it is not a malignant tumor.
No.
Yeah, and so I went in and I had it tested, and they stuck the needle in twice, and they did a test, and they did a local anesthesia, so I didn't feel it at all. It was a very painful process. I had a bruise after. And you could kind of feel them poking around in there, and there was an ultrasound, and you could see like neck things. And I wear a turtleneck actually because I still feel like people can see the scar, but there actually is no scar. There was no scar left.
It's an emotional scar, and that's valid.
Thank you.
A scar on your soul is deeper than one on your skin, and
It was really scary, and they called me. I had to wait 24 hours.
Oh,
but and they said, it's a benign cyst, and a lot of people get it. And so with this cancer scare support group, I've been able to process the journey, as I like to call it, because I am a survivor. I am still here, and I am not going anywhere. And I have a lot to give.
You have so much to give. You've given me so much as a home for my fears and an online community. I just want to say that 24 hours in dog years is 6 years, and that's what it feels like when you're waiting for a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so I understand your fears, and I am so grateful to be part of your community.
Girl, I was shivering like a chihuahua.
I bet.
Yeah.
Here at Slop, we're all about the superwoman syndrome and preternatural exhaustion. And, you are just the prime example of self-care. And I just want to know, what is a couch potato? What even is that?
Girl, let me explain. Couch potato, that's me. Guilty.
I just picture this potato at Restoration Hardware being like,
Well, it starts with me just really wanting to just get cozy, and sit.
Yeah.
And so, on a Sunday, you can find me on my couch, nestled in with 5 billion blankets and my dogs, and just, trying to connect with my inner child a little bit, and also allowing myself to do nothing. As you said, the modern woman, there's all these pressures. I have to be good at my job. I have to write my next book. I have to be a wonderful, I have a 14-year-old nephew that I have to call once a year on his birthday. I have to make sure that my dogs are fed. I have to pay my assistant to feed my dogs. I have to pay my accountant to pay my assistant to feed my dogs. There's just a lot of things to keep track of.
My head is spinning even hearing it. I feel emotionally depleted. I can feel my hormone levels rising.
No. Please just channel your inner couch potato. Okay? Let go of all of that. Okay, so let go. And say, you know what, today and tomorrow and for the rest of this month, I am going to let go, and I'm just going to sit here. Okay? And I'll take a vacation next month.
Listeners, you can buy the book on slopthepodcast.com, but can you, break down a few chapters for us?
Of course. It's called It's Not My Fault. And it's pretty much, it's a telling of my journey through putting myself first. So often we think, what can I do for other people? How can I treat others the way I'd like to be treated? But for once, I think it's really important for women and for humans and mammals and all primates to say, what if I put myself first? What if I focused on my needs? And so chapter 1 kind of deals with some childhood issues. I really came to writing this book though through a couple of major life crises that I had. I had a couple of traumas that really forced me to look in the mirror and see like how I was really processing or not processing these things. I was dating this guy and it was going great, and we'd been dating for 2 months. And one night he took me to a really nice dinner and he sat me down and he said, you know what, I really like you and I want this to work, but...
that butt.
That butt, right?
Oh my God. Oh, that butt.
That butt.
That butt.
That butt, right?
That
it always
butt.
comes down to that butt.
That butt.
Butt, right?
Butt.
But
Yeah.
we've all heard the butts. We've all heard a lot of butts.
Oh, we've all been
in our
on the
lives.
receiving end of a butt.
Yeah.
It's the worst,
so,
that butt.
I heard this big butt coming.
And
Butt'll get you every time.
what that butt
Yes.
means. Oh,
Every time you hear a big butt and you go,
Butt.
butt. Right. And so he looks at me right in the eye and he takes a big breath and he says,
But put a pin in that thought. We're going to take a quick break to hit one of our sponsors, and we're going to find out what he says after that butt.
ooh.
I love animals and being alive, which is why I became a vegan, and is also why I am positively obsessed with Follicle number 11, a proud Slop partner. Follicle number 11 is a locally sourced, environmentally conscious clothing line designed by my lifelong friend and bleeding heart animal lover, Zoella Eastwood. I'll never forget the long afternoons spent in her backyard in the Pacific Palisades playing chase with her pet potbelly pig, emotionally supporting her golden retriever as she gave birth, riding one of her ponies down PCH to the Santa Monica Pier, or gathering eggs from her chicken coop for our nannies to scramble while our parents were off shooting movies together. So it only makes sense that Zoe eschewed the Hollywood lifestyle to buy 5 acres of beachfront property in the chill hippie enclave of Montecito, California, to open a rescue alpaca farm. During a heat wave 5 years ago, when 11 of her alpacas could not stop shedding, Zoe sweated out this brilliant idea. Gather their piles of shedded hairs, ship them off to Africa, and create jobs for women sewing sweaters from their discarded fur into Zoella's consciously haute couture. Now that kind of genius is why I call her the Steve Jobs of eco-clothing. Follicle number 11. Make an impact with your fashion statement. Enter promo code SLOP and 5% of your order will be donated to Zoella's Alpaca Rescue Nonprofit, where it all began.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I am so inspired every time I speak to you. The self-fullness concept was just revelatory to me, because as in this patriarchal society, we're instructed to put others before us. It's always your fault. You raise your daughters to say, I'm sorry for breathing, and you deserve to be alive. You have self-worth as a soul in this universe. Can I just say you are shifting paradigms with your book?
Thank you.
Self-fullness.
Self-fullness. We're taught to be selfless, but selfless. Think about
lessening yourself.
The root of less is loss. So what are we really saying with that?
Get skinny, lose yourself, lose your goals, sell yourself for a man,
Exactly. But what if we are full of ourselves? What if we are self-full?
I don't like to fail at things.
Who does?
But marriage is one of the few things that I failed at. And, one of the hardest things I've been through was my husband spiritually untangling himself from me.
I'm so sorry.
Apology accepted. You know, I admire your long marriage, and I was hoping that you could give some words of wisdom about how to be an old couch potato married couple, you know. How do you do it?
Well, you know, it's crazy to think that I could even be an expert on the subject. It is work. It's hard work, you know. And I will say that once I let go of the idea of duty and responsibility to him, and really asked myself, what could he do? You know, after the 5th time I cheated on him, I really had to ask myself, what is it actually that my husband could do to make me want to stay?
I love that.
So I started asking those questions of myself and ultimately of him. And I communicated those. And needless to say, Liam is tanning leather right now for my collection. So.
Oh my God, that kind of growth. I mean, it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and ask questions like that, you know?
It is. It's hard to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes, you know.
I wouldn't know about that. But
No, not you. I mean, you are gorgeous. All I see is like...
Stop, I'm kidding, thank you. Go on.
You really are, you know, but, you know, for the rest of the 99% of us that aren't blessed with your same glow, you know,
it's my aura. That's what it is. It's what I give out, and it's my soul.
That's true.
And there's no such thing as physical beauty, really. It's just I have cultivated the inside of myself to shine out in a way that people respond to. And you have too. That's why you're sitting here with me today. You're a mover and a shaker and a thinker. And, you know, questions like that.
I really appreciate that. It's a little hard to like I said, look at myself in the mirror. All I see is like a web of deceit and lies and you know, an agenda. But I have to go, you know what? That's okay. That version of myself is beautiful.
It's beautiful. And next time you look in the mirror, you know what, right now, I want you to pretend you're looking in the mirror.
Okay.
And you tell me, when you look at yourself, what your version of the divine feminine is.
Deceit, lies, manipulative agenda. I see a whore, but I also see a saint. I see a mother, maybe one day. A mother to 2 beautiful adopted children raised across the street from me by nannies. I don't know, I'm just dreaming now. I see a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. I see the next Oprah. And I also see a human. We're all just human. We make mistakes. But what if it's never our fault? You know? Nothing I do is ever my fault, truly.
Holy fuck. I mean, you just changed the lives of all of our listeners. I mean, we're gonna have to go home right now. By home, I mean upstairs. Crack some wine open. Couch potato it up.
Yes, let's watch some sports games. Let's get some nachos. Just relax.
I haven't seen a sport in 10 years.
They're really fun. You're gonna love them.
Oh, I dated a sports player once. And
let's open that wine.
Yeah, we're gonna need it. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
I'm Skipper Parvo, and you just intoxicated your spirit with Slop. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next week.
I'm so sorry about your car accident
Yeah,
on the
no,
way
I'm
over
sorry
here.
I was late. No, it was just a classic Los Angeles hit and run.
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
I was driving, and the car in front of me didn't give me enough notice. You know, and I was texting you at the time that I was running late.
Which I was so grateful for.
I touched the back of his car, and I was in a rush. I was trying to get here. So, you know, I had to go.
That's called self-care. That's taking care of your needs.
Thank you. Yeah, well, you know, people are crazy drivers
People,
in LA.
let me guess. It was the man driving the car.
It sure was. You know
Yep.
what? It sure was.
It's the patriarchy.
And he was angry.
Pull
you know.
over, give me your information, and no.
It's just frustrating sometimes when other people aren't as aware.
Intoxicate your spirit weekly by clicking that subscribe button on Slop's YouTube and Apple podcast pages.
Skipper.